Hey, this is Wednesday, May 6th, advanced class, operation having to be mean to kids and lock them out because hooligan children kept breaking in. And so from now on, if you are trying to join it, I am sending out a new password each day. And so make sure you pay attention to the reminder I sent out for my advanced kids. It should go out around 9:45 or 9:50. It'll have that day's password on it. I'm hoping by sending a daily password that constantly changes, it might keep out some of the random hooligans that might be trying to Zoom bomb. And then it's just going to be hooligans from that class. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I'm almost more impressed it took as long as it did for it to happen. The only thing that really bothers me with the Zoom bomb, by the way, is that they weren't creative. Like, if you're going to Zoom bomb, be creative with it. Like, find a thing to do. Like, you organize all the kids together, like do some mass prank. Don't do a thing where you just like put up an inappropriate picture or curse. That's so uncreative. I mean, if you're going to do it, commit to it on some level. All right. Let's see, to there and clicking over to here, screen, click. Let's begin. PowerPoint. There you go, PowerPoint. Way to do your thing. Hang on a second. Then once we start doing that, then I have to open up the pictures, and then it gives me issues, and that, and then to here. All right, and then up to there, and excuse me. That way I can see your guys' hands if you have questions, and I can see chat in case you guys fire a question at me. I'm happy to help out. Oh, by the way, today's tie. Yesterday was also one from Star Wars. So I figured since May the 4th was on Monday, National Star Wars Day, I figured I'd try to wear Star Wars ties for the week. I know I just gave you guys the tie game. Good job, James. Way to jump in on that one. But I was trying to do that one. All right. Skyward is updated except for yesterday's quiz. I will be updating it with the quiz after today because I had kids who were putting it in last night. So if you have taken the quiz, I will update Skyward with your quiz grade here as soon as this gets done. I should have most of those and be good to go. If you've not taken the quiz, you still can. You should be good to go. You should have a panoramic survey email. Basically, it's just asking about your thoughts as far as school and the quarantine and stuff like that goes. I took my version of it yesterday, where it just basically goes through and says, do you think your teachers are doing a good job? Is the school just doing a good job? Are you still staying safe? Stuff like that. Yeah, the survey was annoying on some level, but at least it was pretty quick. Plus, you guys only had to do one version of it. I had to do two versions of it because I had to do one as a parent for each of my kids. So I had to do one for Fisher's High School and then one for Fisher's Junior High. You just have to do one for yourself. Final gospel test is coming up in what? You have a survey that got sent to you. You need to check your email. So check your school email. There's a survey on there that was sent out yesterday or Monday. Good thinking. Your final gospel test is coming up in 1 week. So a week from today, we are done with gospel, and you guys will have that whole thing. It was a survey. It wasn't a test. It wasn't supposed to be a challenge. It was just asking you questions about your opinion about yourself. If you've not done the 75 items, you can still do that. You just have to send me an email telling me to go look for it. I still have kids who are turning them in. I'm more than happy to go check them and stuff like that. Gospel playlist, still have kids who are turning that in. I'm more than happy to check that for you. Just send me an email. I will happily go check it for you and give you credit. So now you do get a late grade. It drops you down to like a C or a B or something like that. But it still gives you credit, which is better than the 0, which you could be taking otherwise. And then again, yesterday's Socrative quiz is Larry quiz, LARRYQUIZ, over the parts 3 and 4. So if you have not taken quiz yet, it goes in as a 0 today because I'm entering in grades. Good news is, as soon as you take it, I upgrade it to whatever your normal quiz grade is. It's just that I have to put in grades, and so I'm going to put yours in as a 0 if you've not taken it. So just giving you a heads up, if you don't want the big people in your house to freak out and yell at you, take it quickly. Or take it right now while we're doing this. Button over, and you can just be taking it right now, and that's absolutely fine with me. Let's see, so there, e-learning again, turn in all the old stuff. Today, we're going to be reading, more gospel part 3. No, we're doing part 5. Who wrote that? So we'll be reading part 5 and talking about it here in a moment. Let's see, the room name for today. So here, once again, you might want to screenshot for those of you who are paying attention. Here is your room name. It is May06, MAY06. I was going to just do MAY6, but apparently that room name was taken. So apparently someone already had done that one. So I had to put a 0 in front of it. So May 06. Option 1. What is your opinion of what kind of person Josh is? At this point, now that we've gotten to pseudocide and him being figured out and how he's reacting to all this stuff. So what is your thinking of Josh as a person? Not hating on Beth, for those of you who seem to be Beth haters, but more going on, what do you think of him as a person? Option 2, do you think Josh's anonymity and Beta Gold's outing of him was a good thing? This popped up to me because of the whole Zoom changes and the fact that kids could log on to Zoom and be anonymous. It made me have to change things. So basically that's the same thing as Josh being anonymous. So the idea is being anonymous a good thing? Because I would like for someone to out the person who was putting all kinds of bad things up on my Zoom yesterday. And so that's sort of the same idea. So Beta Gold wasn't necessarily trying to be evil. It just was evil from Josh's point of view. But the idea that, being anonymous can be a good thing until you abuse it. And I think she was mostly worried about him abusing it in some way. So that question sort of comes in. Hang on one second. Poor Miles. Miles, you say, look at this monkey, but all I see is your face. So I'm going to try not to judge you too much. All right. Good job there, child. There. Oh, I'm assuming no questions as far as the Socratic thing goes. You have your option, either one, your thought about the being anonymous, or your thought about Josh. I'm happy either way on that one. And then just make sure you go on there and do that. Gospel time, and then to there. Let me see before we get a chance to read. Okay. Here's where, again, I wish I could do the whole talking with you guys thing, because I was wanting to ask you guys questions, but it's kind of too hard to do on here. It doesn't really work out very well. I'm trying not to hate on you guys too much unless you're hating on each other. But yeah, the whole not seeing other humans for a long time seems to be driving people nuts. Post reveal, we find out the fact that Josh hates the fact that he has now been outed and that life is making him all grumpy, and the fact that he's not sort of interacting with other people well. Peter definitely is mean when Peter finds out that who Josh was, Larry. And you get that whole scene about him like smacking him around and being angry and grumpy and attacking him and stuff like that. But before you get too mad at Peter, realize that Josh is kind of hurting Peter's job, because Peter gets in trouble for the fact that this information gets out. And so Josh got Peter yelled at. And so, they sort of go against each other. Hang on. I want to read you a thing on page 154 about adults. 154. There it is. All right. This is on page 154, the argument between Josh and Peter, and they start talking about adults. You say that every time, Peter said. You don't have enough life experience. You don't know how the real world works yet. Adults always say that to keep kids quiet, I said. You don't have any answers. You're all just muddling through like the rest of us. That hit me kind of hard, because I tell my daughters that all the time. Any parent that tells you that they know exactly what they're doing, they're lying. Parents have no idea what they're doing. Trust me, I am a parent. I know this exactly for myself. Pretty much anytime that you guys get in trouble and do a thing like where you sneak out of house in the middle of the night and like go play with a penguin or something like that, and you come home and your parents punish you, we honestly have no idea what to do, because we have no book about how to punish your kids. So it's all about being creative. So a lot of what parents do is just making stuff up, seeing how it works, and then sort of changing what we make up. And so it made me smile that he calls Peter out on the fact that adults are just making it up as they go along, because a lot of times we are just making it up as we go along. Essentially, we're just like really tall kids who have more life experience. Sometimes that works out well. Sometimes it means we get creative. Advertising on page 162. I want to read that also. There it is. Hang on. Try to find it. Here it goes. It's at the bottom of page 161. This is when the lady comes up and starts talking to Josh about trying to promote him and sell him and stuff like that. And she's like offering him all kinds of advertising money. And he says, I pondered the obvious. Won't people think it's strange that I'm guzzling down a product from a company whose marketing campaign I've detested all along? Her response, is that what you're worried about? She smiled at me as if I were a 2-year-old. Josh, people don't think. I held open the kitchen door and asked her to leave. $10 million. She smiled like the Cheshire Cat. Plus, your stepfather's agency gets the business. These advertising people really knew what buttons to push. When Peter found out about her proposal, he played it low key, but couldn't help mentioning that the Coca-Cola account was worth more than $1 billion a year. Also made me smile the fact that claiming that they could get away with it, even though that Josh spent all this time saying that advertising was bad, and then all of a sudden, if he were to start advertising, that people would buy into it because, again, people don't think. There's apps for this. It's called social media. You can go on there at any time, and there's evidence of people being idiots nonstop. It's why the boomers fall for stuff on Facebook nonstop. Anytime they put out any kind of lie and they promote stuff on there, and every boomer, your grandparents, not throwing shade at poor Hebrew who has to live with him right now, but every time they get things posted to Facebook, they're like, oh my God, did you see the fact that there's this alligator that they got to vote in Nevada? And they're like, what? No. And you prove this wrong to them, but they'll buy almost anything because people are dumb. One of my favorite sayings is, a person is smart, people are idiots. As soon as you get them together, they're not going to be very smart. But an individual, you guys are smart. Things with Beth, yeah, we saw the fact that things have definitely gone downhill from there. This is where some of you guys got all ragey and sent me I hate Beth messages. Poor Beth. I mean, just because that she's had a crush on him this entire time, but has been dating and flirting with Todd and sort of stringing him along and making him feel all upset this whole time, and he thought the whole time that she didn't like him. Again, I hate to break this, you might not know it, but teenagers have issues all the time. And so here she has a giant crush on him, but she tries to make him jealous by dating Todd, which then makes him all confused because he thinks that she doesn't actually like him. And of all the things in the book that seems to anger and frustrate kids, from watching high school and junior high and teenagers from a distance, this was probably the most accurate thing in the book that I saw. That whole frustrating thing of watching teenagers interact with each other. From my viewpoint, it's really entertaining all the time watching you guys interact, and you think you're all adorable when you're doing your flirty thing in the hallways at school. If you can remember what it's like being in the hallways at school, and you guys do your weird flirty things, and then I'm just standing there watching it happen. I'm just like, snicker, 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 and you guys think it's all kinds of adorable, but you guys think you're getting away with it, but it definitely entertains me, and really, that's what's important. James, this is school. The hallways where you get to see each other on the screen for a few moments. That's as close as we're going to get for a while, because apparently the world is awful. And Alyssa, stop hating on me. I would never make fun of children. That is awful of you. Josh and I'm watching your guys' faces react as I go through there and talk about it. So we'll use that as your thoughts on poor Josh and Beth and how much you guys don't like one or the other of them. All right, back to here. We have the big hat and the fact that he was trying to be friendly. For those of you who see what's happening with Josh, I showed you this next picture way back when we did Outsiders, but I thought it would now be a good time to show it to you again. To leave me so I can cry over the deaths of fictional characters. So I figured I'd throw that one up there because even though Josh is not technically dying, he's kind of dying. So that's something along those lines. Oh, by the way, for those of you who are not in my regular class, because you're in my advanced class, today in my regular class, we're reading chapter 9 together in Outsiders. If you don't remember what happens in chapter 9, it's the Rumble scene. If you don't remember what happens at the end of the Rumble scene, it's the final scene for a certain character. And so I'm going to be reading that out loud with kids while they're watching it happen. I've never done that before. In all my years of teaching Outsiders, I've always had kids read chapter 9 on their own because I know big feels happen, but I can't do that here. I'll be reading it with them. Children? So as I'm reading it, I'm going to be watching kids like break down in front of me on camera, and it is going to be something else. So yeah, that's the joy I have for today is as we get to that.
Why do you do this to children?
Because it's educational and it makes them...
It's not educational. It is pain.
It's educational for me. Stop being selfish.
Fine. Can I pluck your beard hairs one by one? It's educational for me. I gotta learn more about hairs.
You are an angry goblin. All right.
I've gone through that. Mr. Sturgeon did that and I cried in class.
Yeah, well, this way they're going to kind of cry in class. It's just going to be on Zoom, on video for all the other kids to watch and see. Bonding.
That's even worse.
I'm a horrible person.
I can tell.
All right, let's see. So there, Josh, a good person. We're kind of covered that one. Ooh, again. So this is what bothers me about this whole Zoom. No, Hebert, you can't join the regular class just to sit there and laugh at those poor children. Let them suffer in peace as much as it can be. This is once again where I would like to be able to have an actual discussion with you guys in the classroom and ask, because this becomes a big one. Is Beta Gold a good person? Realize we have bias going on where, for the most part, you guys are seeing this story through Josh's eyes. Josh doesn't like Beta Gold because she outs him. But if you're a normal person, like an adult, and you have this anonymous person doing things, then Beta Gold's kind of a hero who goes out there and does all of these wonderful things. And so it sort of goes back and forth where her goal is not necessarily to do an awful thing. It just happens to be that you're seeing it through her viewpoint of awfulness. Now, given she does make, things will happen afterwards, I don't want to give away, but she definitely enjoys the popularity, but I'm not sure she's really a bad person. Well, we're not going to get into that one right now. Ooh, we'll come back to that one, I think. Ooh, see, this is one I'd like to ask you guys also, if we were like in actual face-to-face, is if there was a TikTok where it was something like Josh, where it was an anonymous person who did all of these sermons and like did a rant thing and went off on it, if you think like this social media, if kids would go after it today. The reason that Josh got so super popular back in the day was because it was at the very beginning. Like, social media did not exist. It was just websites and chat rooms and stuff like that. And so the idea of doing something like this was huge. But now with all types of popular people out there, it's not quite the same way. So it's be interesting to see if that same thing would happen today. The same thing I just did. All right. And we're not to that one yet. All right. What I was planning on doing to see how long my voice goes is I was going to try reading a little bit with you for some things coming up and then talking. If you've already finished the book at this point, that's absolutely fine with me. If you want to like skedads out, if you want to hear conversations and talk, you're more than welcome to stay. I figure I'm going to try and get 15, 20 minutes of reading in. So here's our checkpoints coming up. Tomorrow, my goal is that it'll just be another short meeting that we're going to get a chance to go through and do. But tomorrow, it'll be more you doing your last homework assignment. You're going to have one last homework assignment that I'll be, Shalini says hello, Jenna. One last homework assignment tomorrow. Jenna says hello, Shalini. And then from there. And then Tuesday, we'll talk about the end. Wednesday, we have final test. And then Thursday, we start moving on to other stuff. Question, Goblin? Food, donuts, ramen. Alyssa just got done eating a whole bowl of ramen. That's what I said. But apparently both me and her mom made fun of Alyssa for eating ramen. But that's definitely an option you could do. But she did the green ramen, not the orange ramen. But I don't know. I don't know which flavor the green one was, but she was eating a green package. So I was trying not to judge too much. We're an orange package, Alyssa. Apparently you're a green package household. So, whatever, to each their own. All right. So, Casper, I like your thinking. Nice connection of Beta Gold to Bubble from SpongeBob. We were at it. Chili, interesting. Yeah, chicken is our go-to one. Anyway, so if you're wanting to stick around for conversation, more power to you. Otherwise, your next checkpoint in the book is the end of it, but we're almost to the end of it. I will say, when you read the end of it, where's at the end? Epilogue, you will need to read because it sort of wraps things up. Beyond that is like an interview with the author that you don't have to do. If you want to read the interview, you can, where it talks about Tasjian and sort of how she connected with Josh. The epilogue will throw things in there because it connects back to the very beginning. But it goes to like page 227-ish, but that'll be the final part with you guys. But being as we only have like 30 or 40 pages left, so I'm going to read a bit with you guys, see how my throat is doing, and then prepare to torture a whole bunch of my regular kids and stuff like that. All right. For those of you who have finished and you're done, you can take off. For those of you who want to listen to my melodic voice or watch and see if the teacher passes out on camera, you're more than welcome to stick around. Hang on. I have... Again, if you did not screenshot it, I'm going to put it up there one more time for those of you who need to, and then I'm going to make that disappear. Alyssa, that is adorable cat. Looks like you're trying to eat. Apparently, you did not have enough ramen. I do not recommend eating a poor little kitty cat, but to each their own, no matter how delicious that cat may be. Tastes like swallowing glass. Strep throat is the best. Yeah, it hurts so much. All right, and then to here, clicky, clicky, and to there, and right. This is this guy. All right, so let me read for a few to get started from there. I was going to start on page 181, because that should be where we started off, right? Making sure I don't lie to you. Although lying to you is fun. Technically, page 179. That's where part 5 starts. So I'm going to read for a bit, and then we'll be good to go from there. Part 5. For as yet they know not the scripture, that he must rise again from the dead. Hopefully this one would make sense to you on why we're starting part 5 of talking about rising from the dead, since we know now that Josh is going to do the whole committing fake suicide thing, and then he's going to sort of come back to life. This is the part where he talks about him coming back to life and stuff like that. All right. So he's now done the whole planning of it. Now he's going to go through the actual committing of the fake suicide. The next day, I jumped out of bed with my old energy. Finally, a new project to throw myself into. I probably wouldn't go through with it. Spoiler, he does. But I had to admit, having such a huge list of obstacles oh God, that hurt so badly to overcome was a giant turn on. I thought about the list of past lives Beth and I had made in homeroom. Forget a past life. I was ready to create a future one. What would be the best way to die? Hypothetically, of course. Drug overdose? Street fight? No, it couldn't be anything where a body was needed. Then I wouldn't be able to return after the whole ordeal blew over. Lost or missing wouldn't work. The media would never give up looking for me. Everyone would need to think I was really dead. My mind continually returned to drowning. Maybe the ocean? Not some lake or pond they could easily dredge. Footnote, this whole plan would be impossible if Mom were still here. She'd empty the ocean with coffee cups if she had to, make sure I wasn't still alive. My reoccurring dream, the life jacket, the skeleton in the boat, all pointed to drowning. I looked at it as a baptism of sorts. In the end, I decided to go with my instincts. Why complicate things? And as scary as the Sagamore had been, it met all the necessary requirements. With the strong currents and winds of the Cape Cod Canal, a body would soon disappear into the arms of the Atlantic. I grinned like a newborn, and in a way, I was. I spent days on the internet. I looked through phone books and travel magazines. I searched newspaper archives. Footnote, do you know they're called morgues? They are. When you go and try to dig in, I found out when I was in high school, I'm going to do research for an essay, that when you go and look into backgrounds of newspapers, they call those old newspapers the morgue, which is disturbing because that's what you call a place where you put a bunch of dead people. But, humans. It was nice to keep busy for a change. I made another to-do list: register my bicycle with the police department, begin taking early morning marathon bike rides to establish the habit, get a new post office box, purchase hair dye, scissors, and glasses, send away for vacation brochures from the towns on my list, contact several town halls for birth certificates, quietly sell a few stocks in my portfolio. All of these steps had to be accomplished without alerting the press, which was a tall order indeed. The way my blood surged through me reminded me of the buzz I got when I first began the Larry site, the anticipation, the enthusiasm. I would need the skill of a high wire acrobat to pull the whole thing off. But that was part of the appeal. My death became the act I'd been rehearsing for my whole life. There'd be lots of news coverage, and I use the word news lightly. Then eventually the story would die down. My plan would decimate Peter, of course, but I was almost beginning to think he'd be better off without me. Maybe in his grief, his clients would finally forgive him, and he could build his business back up. The other night, he sat me down at the kitchen table with a stack of 8x10 glossies and a felt-tip pen. He'd been drinking. He said the guys at the latest conference have been bugging him for autographs. Not for them, of course. Larry was the enemy. But what about their kids? The photos were reprints of me mowing the lawn last summer. He shoved the pen into my hand. At least I'll be able to pay the mortgage this month, he said. A for-profit profit. He laughed at his own joke, spilling his scotch. I signed the photos. Although Beth had made a full-time job out of ignoring me lately, she'd probably take my death hard too. Footnote, I had mixed feelings about this. I didn't want her to be hurt, yet on the other hand, I hoped she would be. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I harbored the hope that she still cared. But my good thoughts outweighed the bad. I'd get to spend several months either hiding out in the woods or traveling cross country. With glasses, different colored hair, and a low profile, I should be able to move around the nation undisturbed. My precious solitude undisturbed. Solitude returned. Being able to be just Josh again would be worth it. Technically, I couldn't be Josh, of course, but being anyone these days was better than being Josh or Larry. I still wasn't going to go through with it. It was a task to focus on, to keep me busy during the empty, lonely summer. Just for fun, I chose a day Peter would be out of town. I marked D-Day on my mental calendar. D for destiny. D for death. I worked around the clock, taking only short breaks to unwind by whiting out comic strips and making up my own dialogue. I went back and forth on the suicide note decisions. If I left a note, how would I explain it when I returned? That I survived the 135-foot fall and swam to shore? Unlikely. Besides, couldn't most people figure out why I'd want to kill myself without a note? If I didn't leave one, more options opened up. I could return in a few months and say I never did jump off the bridge, that someone knocked me from my bike and I wandered around with no recollection of who I was. Footnote, by then I would have grown my hair out back to brown and no one would be the wiser. Peter did not have an insurance policy on me, so there could be no accusation of fraud. As the weeks went by, I sold off a few of the stocks Mom had left me. The profit was enough for me to live frugally for several months. I received copies of 3 birth certificates in my new post office box. They were from guys about my age who had died from various causes in cities across the country. Footnote, I got all the relevant information from the newspapers. Names of both parents, date of birth, the mother's maiden name was the key one. With the birth certificates, I got copies of their social security numbers, and with both forms of ID, I obtained 3 different driver's licenses from nearby states. I'd be able to go from one identity to the other whenever necessary. The actual suicide played like a movie in my mind. I'd need every bit of drama I could muster to pull it off. If I were going to do it, which I wasn't, I chanted Larry's words in my head like a mantra. Be the hero of your own life. Be the hero of your own life. It was nice to have advice from somebody you trusted. All right. And then I'm going to read one more, then I have to stop just because of my throat. I'd spent more than 6 weeks assembling all the various information someone who was dropping out would need. But was I being honest with myself? As D-Day approached, I had to face the fact that a tiny part of me was actually thinking about going through with this crazy plan. Sure, I loved intricate plots as much as the next person, but this one was more serious than any of my other hoaxes. There was only one thing to do, a vision quest. I'd used my pit in the earth for a vision quest once before, after my mom died. I told Peter I was camping, but came out to the woods for several days of fasting, prayer, and thought. My throat. The Native Americans were big on spiritual transformation through solitude. I was hoping if it worked for them, it would work for me. By the time I came out 3 days later, I could actually live alongside my grief. So now I sat in my sacred place once again, trying to come to terms with my pain. The first day, my mind was consumed with the mundane. How long had it been since I'd eaten? How much time had passed? Had it rained? By the second day, the chatter subsided, leaving me to deal with the bigger questions. Who was Josh Swinson anyway? Why did he need to create Larry to spout his opinions? Didn't he trust his own voice? I realized I was thinking of myself in the third person again. Why? Why did I have such a hard time embracing I? just being Josh. Did everyone else my age have this problem too? I stared at the almost full moon overhead. I chanted, I prayed, I huddled in my blanket. I waited. In my altered state, I recalled a biblical coloring book someone had given to me when I was a kid. The image in my mind was captioned, "The agony in the garden, Jesus in Gethsemane, his expression lonely, full of suffering and doubt." Contrary to popular opinion, I'd never considered myself a God, not even with a small g, unlike me, your teacher, who does have that issue, but that's a different story. But lonely, suffering, and full of doubt, that hit the proverbial nail on the head, or, well, cross, as the case may be. Other pictures in the coloring book flashed before me: the crucifixion, the resurrection, how had I gone from being a kid lying on the kitchen floor with a box of crayons to a boy sitting in a hole in the woods contemplating his own death. Did I miss something? Anything? As the second night turned to day, then night again, I remembered what I'd read about Native Americans on vision quests. They either died, came back crazy, returned home, or disappeared without a trace. Those were the only options. On the afternoon of the fourth day, I emerged from my pit, squinted up at the sun, and knew which option was mine. I kind of feel like quarantine, by the way, is like this vision quest. I'm either going to come out of it crazy, dead, staying here forever, or I'm going to just disappear without a trace. All right. Tomorrow, if those of you who are still in here, I will pick up and happily read from page 191 on and happily read more with you if you would like. That is fine with me. But other than that, I'm going to close out. See you guys later. And try and go do something for my throat before I have to go make a whole bunch of my regular kids cry. So think about them in about 45 minutes and how awful they're going to be feeling, and try to send them happy thoughts. All right. Oh, or if you're Journey, you can just creep over to your brother's room while he watches the video and just hang out in the background and watch the poor boy cry. And that could also be an option you could do. I mean, I'm not saying it would definitely be entertaining. I'm just saying it's a thing that might be fun to do. All right. I'll see you guys later. Cha-cha! Throat hurts so badly.